Yeah, I'm I'm Cy Bounds. And I was inspired by my colleague in computer instruction here, uh, Jesus Patrick. We're working together to share our collective uh, knowledge on our collective knowledge on in the world of computers uh, with our community. And computer people, web designers, blog designers, of which I am one, and Jesus is one. I'll look to you. Oh, okay, fantastic. Yeah. Well, I'm very natural on air, so you can let me know. We audience will know what I know. That's the way you teach computers too. And that's what we're doing. We're simplifying. Jesus is telling me to look into his eyes, and I never do hardly. But the point I'm saying is that that's what the computer world is all about: keeping it simple and sharing it with one another. Um, I had an opportunity a number of years ago to do an interview with Tyrone Wilson, W.L. Leonard Show, and I mentioned on that program that one of the things that I saw, there was the possibility that was developing in our community, and I'm speaking of the African American community, although I know this information is going to go beyond the African American community. But I said to WL and I said to Tyrone, I said, one of the things that I'm afraid of in our community is that we're going to take this wonderful opportunity that we have with technology, and we're going to do the same thing with it that we have a tendency to do with many other things. We're just going to keep it to ourselves as individuals, and so this is like a massive opportunity here, the technology. But if we take the same mentality that we normally take in other aspects of our lives, keep it right. If you go into a library and you watch young African Americans, most of the time they're going to be looking straight ahead because we've been socialized not to communicate with one another. And that's a big mistake in the world of computers. There should be collaboration. If you don't know something, you should want to say, can you help me with this? And I learned that in Triton about 14 years ago, and when I was doing my radio program, it's more computer information, but that's really how it moves in a larger world. It's a collaborative effort, and the community needs to begin to think in that way. And we really don't do that, and there may be some folks who want to challenge me on that, they go right ahead, but we don't do that. So we need to, and before you can begin to change something, you must acknowledge that there's a problem. So at this point, we need to start to become more socially conscious of one another's presence. But I'm not going to just take up all the time. If you guys want to ask me the questions, I'll share what's in my head in relationship to your questions and computer technology as I see it.
So you follow technology pretty closely. When did you first hear about the city plans for city wireless?
Several years ago, before most people in Chicago really knew it. I watched what the guy was doing, the mayor of Philadelphia, and someone else I can't think of right now, but he was able to get it in there before the AT&T and the big guys. But what they did after they got the wireless in Philadelphia is that they had been seeking to put the kibosh on that kind of power, that kind of collective grassroots power around the country now. And so, but even before Alderman Burke, I was aware. But when I saw him speak up, I knew then that it was going to move politically in Chicago. So I've been watching that. But I knew when Burke took a look at it, I knew it was going to move politically in Chicago, and I was glad of that, because the only politician, not the only, because there's some pretty intelligent people out there, but technologically speaking, a lot of politicians aren't technologically literate. Some are. I'm watching Leslie Harrison, and I think Connie Howard come to mind as two people that I know that are sharp people. But David Orr has really been on top of this before anybody, because his office has been technologically on top of things way before any of the other politicians. But Burke is the one I knew when he got it, it was going to move.
You mentioned the phrase power and grassroots power. How does that relate to all this, and what does it mean for you?
It means that now, because of the daily, almost by the hour, advances and changes in technology for the better, the new things that are happening, poor people around the world, not just Chicago, but in India, where things are really changing, in China and Korea, hopefully more in Africa too, you know. But it's making a difference. I think Singapore they're working on now becoming, the whole country's going to become digitized, you know. So it's allowing little people now to, it really equalizes a lot of things. Internet is the name of my radio program many years ago was Size Creative World. So that's where I see things. I think creatively there's all kinds of possibilities, only limited by your mind, folks' minds, and that's what's happening with the computer thing right now. We can do much better in this country, but the people that are sort of have many other interests, and but the technology will really help people on a broad scale.
You've got a really global perspective on this. Where do you get your news? I'm sure it's multiple media.
I get my news from Google, PR Wired, which anyone in the newspaper business today should be using, and if they're not getting the news properly, and they're pushing the newspapers out to you, but they're not really getting the latest news, because the latest right now news is on PR Wired, and anywhere in the world you can find out exactly what's going on within an hour after it happens, or as it's happening with PR Wired. If you just sign on and get a password and become one of their reporters. And so many newspapers that are in the community don't even know about that. I try to tell some of them that, and they look at me and say, okay, sure, yeah. But basically what that means is people are getting information that these people think is news, when actually the real news is happening for those people that are watching things like PR Wired.
So is PR Wired a new model? And can you describe it for us? This is new to me.
Yeah, it's not new, but they made a push last year. They're in the Midwest. They have different locations, but they're all over the world, and they have ticker tape type news going for whatever subject around the world right now, in the last 12 hours, or et cetera, whatever, you know. And you can click right into them and get that information once you get your password. And whatever information on any subject, you can find out what's going on about that subject around the world, anywhere in the world. And so all you got to do is go to prwired.com right now.
You're a dedicated blogger and
researcher.
Proponent of blogging.
Yes.
That's well known. The idea of bloggers who are capturing news or documenting news versus mainstream journalism. Many people in the mainstream journalism are kind of dismiss
Yes.
blogging as a movement to some extent. And
Yes.
so I'm wondering about this PR Wired, if these are bloggers or accredited journalists, or who are the PR bloggers?
I don't know.
Or not bloggers, sorry, I'm using the wrong.
I don't know who they are. I know who should be using their services. It should be anyone that is calls themselves a newspaper, you know. Um, and there's a big uh, uh, something going on right now with newspapers catching it because they're trying to catch up with the technology, and therefore, I don't know. That's how I see it. That the bloggers, the people that are into the blogging and the PR Wired have the right now news, and if you don't, you have the news that you have the older news. You know, so I don't see it as much of a of a question. It's just that people are maintaining because they for power reasons or because they're for jobs that they want their bosses or control or whatever. But the technology should move on. I know I didn't answer that question too well, but I'm thinking that the technology should move on and they would everybody would benefit. Of course, there has to be stopgaps and security and but communities are building safety within their communities. Communities on the internet, they're building safety within their communities. Now, a lot of communities are meeting, and if you do knitting, other people that are knitting are getting together, and they can tell when someone gets in that group. It tries to act like they know about knitting, and they don't know about knitting, so they're able to police themselves. This